Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving right into a massive, absolute game changer of a transition happening in real estate right now. We are officially stepping out of that high-pressure, low-inventory pandemic frenzy, you know the one, and moving straight into a much more balanced, higher-inventory reality. If you've been keeping an eye on things this mid-2026, you've definitely felt this major shift in power.
So here's our agenda for today. We'll cover Canada's housing market stalemate, the July Victoria market update, the return of inventory, tracking the benchmark prices, and finally, navigating the new normal.
Section 1. Canada's housing market stalemate.
Okay, let's look at the national data setting the stage for our current summer market. Across Canada, we actually saw both buyers and sellers pull back in tandem earlier this year. It's kind of like a giant game of chicken, right? This mutual hesitation pushed the national inventory to a 6-year high, and home resales nationwide just took a steep dive down to 428,000 units. It's a really clear picture of an entire market just taking a collective pause.
And wow, the direct consequence of that pause is pretty striking. Because of this persistently weak demand paired with a whole lot of inventory, especially concentrated in spots like Ontario and British Columbia, the National Composite MLS Home Price Index has really been pinned down. We're looking at a 4.8% year-over-year dip.
RBC Economics highlights a few core pressures keeping things in this holding pattern. Basically, this huge abundance of inventory, coupled with the ongoing reality of stretched affordability, means that provinces like BC are on a longer, much slower journey toward recovery compared to the rest of the country. This national stalemate is absolutely crucial to understand because it's the exact backdrop for what we're seeing locally.
Section 2. July Victoria market update.
All right, if there is literally just one single statistic you take away from this entire July market explainer, make it this one. 3,847. That is the total number of active listings for sale in the Victoria region at the end of July. This isn't just some random data point. It's the actual engine driving all of our current market dynamics. According to the Victoria Real Estate Board's official July data, think about that 3,847 number compared to the 3,702 active listings we had at this exact same time last year. That is a steady, undeniable climb in available homes hitting the market. Let's put those numbers side by side to really see the story unfold. Total sales in July 2026 hit 673 properties. Now that is remarkably flat compared to the 680 sold in July 2025. I mean, that's just a tiny 1% decrease. But consider those active listings. What this means in the real world is that while the number of actual buyers hasn't drastically changed, the sheer volume of choice available to those buyers has expanded massively.
Section 3. The return of inventory.
Think back for a second to what buying a house felt like over the last few years. Total chaos, right? Well, we have officially stepped out of that anxiety-inducing, low-inventory frenzy of the pandemic era. We are no longer operating in an environment that drives intense competition and constant upward pressure on pricing. Instead, we've moved into a balanced market where buyers finally have some room to breathe.
I absolutely love this quote from Victoria Real Estate Board Chair Fergus Kyne because it perfectly captures the current mood. He points out, today's buyers have more options and more time to make informed decisions. That intense, crazy pressure to bid thousands over asking price within hours of a listing going live, it's pretty much evaporated. You actually have the time to comfortably compare properties now without rushing.
Section 4. Tracking the benchmark prices.
So, you might be wondering, how exactly is this newfound leverage and extra time impacting what you'll actually pay for a home? Well, the July data released by the Victoria Real Estate Board highlights a really fascinating divergence in how different housing styles are reacting right now. Not all property types are behaving the same way under the weight of this new inventory. Interestingly, when breaking down sales volume by property type, condominiums dropped by 7.1% and townhomes saw an even larger drop of 15.5% compared to last July. But check this out. Sales of single-family homes actually surged ahead by 4.1%. This tells us that with way more choices out there, active buyers are really taking advantage of their options and leaning heavily into single-family detached properties. Now, despite that active bump in single-family sales, the absolute abundance of overall inventory is keeping downward pressure on pricing across the board. The benchmark price for a single-family home in the Victoria core actually dropped 2.8% year-over-year, down to $1,311,000.
Condos experienced a similar softening, dipping 2.2%, down to $548,600.
But let's be super clear about the context here. A 2.8% decrease should absolutely not be viewed as a market crash. Far from it. What this represents is stability. It just means sellers need to realistically adjust their expectations to match the current data, while you, the buyer, gain much-needed leverage and the breathing room to actually negotiate.
Section 5. Navigating the New Normal.
Ironically, seeing a generous number of homes for sale can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming after years of having literally zero choice. Experts advise leaning heavily on your realtor right now. Use their expertise to explore a property's true potential, both current and future. Take the necessary time to filter out all the noise, carefully compare your options, and focus strictly on the features that actually matter most to your lifestyle.
I want to leave you with this final thought. As the balance of power shifts and inventory continues to offer you unprecedented breathing room, ask yourself, when you don't have to rush a bid out of sheer panic, what features are absolutely non-negotiable for your next move, and where can you make a smart compromise? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I hope it helps you clearly view the July market exactly as it stands today.